Why do we dive into our wounds? It is not to drown in those wounds. It is not to sulk in our sorrow. It's not to dwell within the depths of our victimhood and our dreads and our woe is me existence. We visit our wounds to feel them and to witness them with the depths of our hearts and of our souls, held by the arms and hands of God. We dive into our wounds to witness our primordial pains. And we recognize them as the pains of our births, birthing pains. The question of pain is primordial. In the East, in Buddhism, one of the metaphysical principles of reality, one of the axioms of existence, one of the Four Noble Truths, existence is suffering. The cause of existence, or of the existence of suffering, is ignorance. This is on the eastern side of the human collective. On the western side, in the text of Genesis, within like 7 lines, there is the birth of death, the primordial fall, the creation of the entire universe in Genesis is almost directly followed by humanity's severance from that creation, and thus the eternity of suffering that is imposed upon us as an inheritance of fallenness and wickedness and depravity because of that primordial choice to disconnect ourselves from God. Then Christ has to incarnate as God in the flesh to sacrifice himself and die and embody the totality and the fullness and the universality of that samsaric pain, if we are to weave it to Buddhism, or of the universal pain if we are not to weave it to Buddhism. Regardless, it is pain, it is primordial. He dies, he resurrects, so that that pain can be dissolved. These are 2 examples, these are 2 poles. But there are many others, which I need not name in this moment. I'm simply pointing to the primordial poignancy of our pain, the primordial importance. It is part of our very cosmogony, our very creation. So again, why do we dive into our pains? Why do we dive into our wounds? Why do we confront and feel our pains? We do it so we can heal, so we can understand ourselves, so we can understand ourselves. And so we can reconnect with the divine. What happens when we stay stuck in our pains? is samsara, an illusion. Rootedness in ignorance. Or in the West, purgatory and hell, rather than the heavenly truth which God has gifted us as the essence of our souls and the essence of our salvation. To confront our pains, to look them in the eye, to perceive the ways in which our pains weave themselves into deceit and delusion and temptation for the sake of their own survival and perpetuation into eternity, into hell, into samsara. Our pains weave themselves into these perpetual mythologies and stories of confinement, of lack of understanding, of falsity. Of fragmentation and of separation, divorce from the divine. I say all this because there have been a few videos recently where I've been expressing my pains, where I've been exploring their depths and using these videos as a medium to explore them, to develop a relationship with them, to release them from my body and to release myself from their bondage. Now, our society, which is addicted to its own pain, as much as it is addicted to the avoidance of that pain, and certain people who have not yet integrated their pains, have not confronted their pains. When they see pain being expressed, when they see emotion, when they see release, when they see catharsis, when they see the shedding of layers of ghosts and traumas leaving the body, they might see that and be afraid, and they might call it bad. Better brush that away. Better put that on the side. Homeless men who are glitching out on the sidewalk, better just make them disappear. Doesn't matter where, just not here. Even, this is like a strange topic to explore, but we're entering the scorpionic depths and understanding and integrating into understanding. Criminals, put them in the prisons. We do not rehabilitate them. We do not heal the core wound which they've expressed, because hurt people hurt people. Just lock them up. Go to therapy, they say. Take these pills. They'll make you normal. Drink yourself to death. Put a smile on your face. Go to McDonald's. Eat fast food. Conform to an entire system built on the avoidance of pain, on the fear of pain. Now, let me just note, I'm not weaving this as a spell. Those were all just affirmations. I was simply voicing the insanity of our society and our world. I was not declaring, go do these things. I am pointing to the absolute absurdity of these paradigms and perceptions which refuse to see the fullness of humanity and the primordial depth of humanity, the primordial depth of the wild unknown, and of something of the erratic nature that is a part of our animal bodies, that is a part of what makes us kindred with our kin. The two-legged, the four-legged, the winged, the interrelated trillions of living, breathing hearts, all of which, together with us, as our mirrors, our shadows, and our kindred beings, and our familiars, and our family, and our ancestors, and our progeny, they are feeling this pain with us and for us and as us and as themselves. Every single living, breathing heart in the ocean, on the land, on the air, in the infinite universe. In this material plane, experiences pain. Now, I don't know if the luminaries feel pain. I don't know if the multidimensional beings feel pain. But I know that on this earth, there are trillions of hearts that feel pain together. And that all share and exchange in a way that is reciprocal the universal and universalizing breath of God. And that breath contains the love and the equanimity and the peace which heals and dissolves that pain. The point of this transmission, this exploration, is to express that it is not wrong to feel your pain. It is not wrong to express your pain. It is not wrong to develop a relationship to your pain and to your wounds and to their primordiality. within your being and within the world. In the language of astrology, we all have a chiron. Chiron is a core wound. The wounded healer. As I intuitively understand it, the luminaries are the hands and breaths and fingerprints of God, weaving the microcosmic clockwork of our souls, breathing themselves into embodiment. So that much as the moon influences my emotions, and the sun influences my soul, and Mercury influences my speech, Chiron influences my wounds. And as the wounded healer, I do believe, the wound presents itself in the full integration of your microcosmic will as your gift, as the gift of healing and medicine, which you learn to offer others by first offering to yourself. Every time that I dive into the traumatic depths of things that have happened for me on my journey, I learn how to refine my medicinal offerings to reality. I learn how to understand why pain even exists. I learn how pain weaves itself into integrative coherence with God's universal omnibenevolence. Now here's the thing. That was a little astrological tangent that happened of its own accord. As beings of free will, wounded and in pain, pathos, when we visit our pains and when we develop a relationship to our pains, and when we explore our wounds and we dive into them, into their memory, into their imprints within our microcosmic bodies, as willful beings, we choose what to do with that relationality, with that experience. When we feel our pains, when we confront our pains, when we dive into them, do we cling to them as sources of comfort, as sources of fear, as sources of safety and delusion? Or do we feel them? Let them flow into our energetic and emotional depths, through our energetic and emotional depths, into catharsis and shedding and release and transformation and transmutation and deeper self-becoming. Birthing pains. Births of resurrection. Carrying our cross, dying with it, and then resurrecting. Why, God, have you forsaken me? Christ said. To die with a heart wrapped in a crown of thorns, and yet flaming. What are the flames? What is that conflagration? And how does it relate to our pain, to my pain, to your pain, to your wounds? Over here, you will see a magnificent creature. I think it's right there, which is also a fellow living, breathing heart. The heart feels pain because it feels. It feels loss because it feels love. And in this plane of reality, while love is eternal, its material emanations are transitory, temporary. That does not affect love's eternity, love's unassailability. But in this realm, if we love from a place of attachment and from a place of wounding and woundedness, if we love another to fill our pains, which we refuse to confront, then we are seeking eternity within the ephemeral. We are seeking truth within something which is fleeting. And we are seeking what we can only find within ourselves, within the other. So this is the third option. I spoke of visiting your wounds and developing a relationship to them, and then drowning in them and sulking in them and drowning in the victimhood. And then I think I've spoken of diving into your wounds to shed those layers, to feel them out of your body, and to become their transmutation into the journey of salvation and resurrection. The third option is the attempt at avoidance of that pain at all costs, to avoid confronting it. To numb yourself by scrolling for hours on end, by drinking, by eating, by consuming, seeking to extract the essence of love, which is omnipresent, but which you have forgotten is within your own self, is the very essence of your being. Avoidance of pain because pain is painful. And the pains of the primordial womb of the ocean are in a rising tide. Microcosmically in this moment, macrocosmically in the emotional depths of humanity that have been bottled up for millennia. So that all these houses, all these little categorical structures of mind that have decided we can avoid confrontation of our pains. I'm not saying all these people who live up here are doing this, but this mental structuralization which seeks the avoidance of pain, which seeks pretending like that pain does not exist, like the wildness of existence will not come for us, like death itself and the pain inherent in death will not come for us. People hide in the safety illusory of their homes to convince themselves that death will not take them, to convince themselves that they are safe in the avoidance of their pain. The ocean, the emotional depths, the primordial womb from which we have been born is destined to return. From dust we come, and to dust we shall return. This is not a morbid situation nor subject. It is simply truth. And is part of the reality that we must contend with. Now, I'm not going to open up this entire can of worms. I'll just put the little can opener in it, do the little click and crack, and maybe I'll dive into it another time. We are currently living in an age and era where technology is macrocosmically being used by deluded scientists to create grand structures of avoidance, which are specifically seeking to avoid death, pain, and reality itself. I'm talking about a valley made of silicon. I'm talking about scientists in Switzerland blasting particles of quantum reality at one another in an attempt to separate, to cause separation upon the wholeness of the fabric of reality. The ocean is here. And I am its waters. And I am the flame of my living, breathing heart and the living, breathing hearts of a trillion beings. All praying at the altar of God and God's universal truth. Feeling the pain within my microcosm, on my own behalf, on behalf of those who feel their pains with me, and on behalf of those who refuse to feel their pains. This is not abnormal. This is not something that should be banished. This is just the truth. And in face of truth, illusions die. Any way that I cling to illusions will die. And I pray to God that it will be so. May the waters be with you. May you develop a healthy relationship with your primordial pains and your primordial wounds and the primordial womb. And may God guide us all to universal healing and freedom. Thank you. I could just keep talking. Goodbye.